Okay, hi everyone, thanks for coming along. So we've got no fire alarm scheduled for this evening, so if we do have a fire alarm, please can we evacuate the building immediately? Sorry, this afternoon. The fire exits are located at the rear and the side of this room. If you could go down the stairs and then meet in the War Memorial Park. As you probably all know, the meeting's being webcast, so we are live on the internet. And can I ask that all mobile phones are turned off or turned to silent? Thank you. Okay, so apologies for today. Councillor Day may be joining us later, but I'd also like to welcome David Stent from Unison, and Simon Christian should also be attending soon. Okay, have we got any declarations of interest? No. And I'm not aware of any urgent matters either. No. Okay, so can we all look at the minutes of the meeting that was held back in September 2015? I think Shella's got a few comments on them.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to flag up a few points in relation to the minutes, not any matters of accuracy, but just updates for committee members. So first of all, on page 3 of your bundle, under item 415, urgent matters, just to confirm that we did obviously go ahead and recruit a new Executive Director of Borough Services, Rebecca Emmett, and many of you were involved in that process. And she joined us on Monday last week, so she has now started. Also, in relation, just turning over the page, on page 4, under item 715, the high-level restructuring proposal. Again, just to confirm that that has now been implemented. There were 2 new head of service posts coming out of that restructure, and also during the process one of our existing heads of service retired, so we actually went out and recruited for 3 heads of service and also a new operations manager in the operations team, as Steve Featherstone will be retiring quite soon. And I'm pleased to say that we were able to recruit to all 4 of those posts, including one of which, the Head of Financial Services, was an internal promotion, and Philip Hood has been successful in securing that post. Philip has started already. Dave Perkins, the new Operations Manager, starts tomorrow. Colin Rowland is the new Head of Street Scene, Parks and Regulatory Services, and he starts on Monday the 7th of March. And Matthew Evans is our new Head of Planning and Infrastructure, and he starts on the 14th of March. And then also I just wanted to let committee members know, not strictly related to the high-level restructuring proposal, but our Chief Executive, Mel Barrett, has been with us for a year in April. And again, many of the committee members here were present when we appointed Mel. I just wanted to confirm that as he is coming up for almost a year's service, we are in the process of arranging for his appraisal to take place. And group leaders have been invited to participate in that process, and all have agreed to take part. So that will be happening next month. Thank you. The operations manager is David Perkins. He starts tomorrow. Perkins with an E-R, P-E-R-K-I-N-S.
Thank you. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the HR operational management issues. So we've been asked to note this, so if I hand over to Shella to present, and then we can take any questions after.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I thought it might be useful just to do a very quick presentation to members this time round, just to build on some of the points that have been raised in the operational management issues report. And also because this is the first time that I have met with you as a committee, and I just wanted to celebrate the fact that the Council was awarded the Employer of the Year Award at the Inspire Business Awards in November 2015. And the reasons that we were given that award are very relevant to the Operational Management Issues report, which is in front of you today to consider. Essentially, the award was given for 4 main reasons and was assessed by an independent panel of judges. And that panel came in and met with the council, with a big group of the council staff back in September last year. And the first thing that we were able to show them is that we are dedicated to training and developing our staff. And just to give you an example of that, this year we'll be spending an average of about £416 per employee on staff training and development opportunities. We were also able to demonstrate to the judges that we are committed to the welfare of our employees. And this picture shows an initiative that was run by our wellbeing group recently in conjunction with Fifes, who obviously have a centre in Basingstoke. We gave out free bananas to all staff on that particular day. The wellbeing group undertake a wide range of initiatives to try and promote health and wellbeing amongst the council staff. Oh, did I? Sorry, did I skip over? Oh, right. You missed out on a banana. We'll have to run it again. Then you'll already be aware that we launched our new employer brand and values, and that came under the heading of providing a supportive business culture. And this picture is myself and Faye Arnett, our national management trainee, who was responsible for doing all the work with staff and managers around developing the brand and values of going beyond. And these are the values that sit alongside that. And this is very much about us saying that as an employer we want to go the extra mile for our staff so that they will go the extra mile for our residents. That's what all of this is about. And then the fourth area that we were able to show to the judges is that we are willing to explore and provide benefits for our staff. As a public sector employer, clearly we are limited in terms of what we can pay to our staff, but we always look at new and innovative ways that we can actually boost the value of our staff's pay packet, and the Be Rewarded benefits platform is just one example of how we do that to try and help our staff make their pay go further by offering a range of discounts on a wide range of services like your everyday shopping bill or phone insurance or anything like that. And so that's why we were awarded the Employer of the Year award, which we were very proud of. So, could you carry on? Sorry.
Thank you. The six companies at the bottom. No, go back.
Yeah.
Are they the people we beat?
No. Oh. That poster is just an example of some of the retailers that we're offering discounts with on the benefits platform. So the reason all of that is important is that we think that there's good evidence through that morale amongst the workforce is improving. And we undertook some focus groups in January with a group of staff and managers. And they were undertaken by First Ascent, who are the company that have been delivering our leadership and management development programme. And we will be issuing a report that they have written for us to summarise what came out of those focus groups. And one of the points that they made was, and this is a direct quote from their report, significant positive improvement in morale in comparison to the focus groups held in May 2015. Approximately 90% of the focus groups attendees felt that there had been a positive improvement in the way they were being managed, as opposed to 50% in May 2015. So we think that's a really good indication that morale is on the up. I would just like to stress that we're not complacent. We're constantly looking for other ways that we can improve our offering to employees. So again, always so that they will go the extra mile for our residents. That results in low sickness absence, and one of the topics within the management report that you have in front of you today is focusing around sickness absence amongst our workforce. And it's certainly the case that in 2015-16, again, we're likely to see sickness absence levels below the corporate target that we set this year of 6.6 days on average per employee. It's a slight increase on last year's sickness absence, but if you look at the wider picture of sickness absence over the last 5 years, it definitely is going in the right direction in terms of the levels of attendance at the council. It's really good to see that short-term absence in particular is decreasing, and that's a pattern that we see this year as well. Over 2/3 of our absence is long-term, and it's attributed to just 8% of the workforce. I think that's just a message to members to be really, we do have to be a bit careful when we're looking at the figures. You have to think about them in context, and just an example of that is one of the tables that you have in the report shows the figures for my team, the HR business unit. And if you look at the average for that team, it looks like we're doing really badly. But I have to hold my hand up here and confess that the majority of that is actually me, because I went off with a hip replacement operation. Nothing to do with work, just really unfortunate, not had any sickness absence previously. But it just goes to show how you need to look at these figures in context, because one person going off sick for a long period of absence can have a significant impact on the overall average for that particular team. And on that point, 61% of our staff have had no absence at all in the year to date. A particular focus for us for 2016-17 moving forward, once we've got the new operations team management in place, the new operations manager, the new head of service and the executive director as well, we'll be working very closely with them to look at the operations team absence. As you'll have seen in the report, I'm sure that the absence levels in that team are higher than the average for the rest of the councils at 10.14 days. So clearly we want to work with that team to proactively support them to look at those particular issues. It also results in low turnover and high retention. So staff come here and they want to stay. Amongst our 600 staff, we have about 6,000 years of experience between us. That means that the average length of service for our staff is over 10 years. It also, I think there's also evidence that when we do need to recruit, and we know that through the senior recruitment that we've done recently, we are successful. So that shows that people do want to stay, but they also want to come here when opportunities arise. We do also have an increasingly diverse age range. We've been quite successful recently in recruiting more younger workers. Just to give you an example of our diverse workforce, this is a picture of Keith Stainer, who's our longest serving employee, been with us for almost 48, in fact he has been over 48 years now in the operations team. This is a picture of him at Buckingham Palace at the Queen's Garden Party. And then also the other picture is our oldest employee and our youngest employee. Robin is over 70, I won't reveal his exact age, and Luke is an apprentice in the HR team, and he is 16, just turned 17. So we do have quite a wide range of ages within the council's workforce. But a particular focus for us next year moving forward, you may have picked up in the report, is around trying to attract more workers to come and work for us from ethnic minority communities. I think that's definitely a focus for us moving forward. There's loads more information on the council's workforce equalities profile on the council website. We're required to publish that information under the public sector equality duty. And so I've just put the link there as to how you can find that more detailed information. It goes into detail about things like the protected characteristics and looks at where they are in terms of the different grades of posts at the council, for example. So loads more information on that. And also compares our workforce profile with the borough's profile as well. And we do all of that at the end of the day to make sure that we continue improving on those excellent customer satisfaction levels that we have already. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations on the award as well.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions on the presentation?
Chair, I've got a number of questions on the report as well as on the presentation. Okay.
So can we start with the presentation, then we'll move on to the report?
Yep. Okay. First Ascent, this company you use, are they using accredited training? Is it accredited to any of the management institutes like the CMI or?
We have decided not to accredit the training. Employees can choose to accredit the training that they've been provided with through First Ascent under the ILM scheme, so they can choose to do that at an extra cost. That's the reason that we didn't decide to do it. We decided not to do it, rather.
Okay, thanks. I think you do this, but do you not separate long-term and short-term sickness so you can see the true picture of short-term sickness somewhere in here, don't you? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll come back to that. The final thing on the presentation, Chair, is your figure of 10.14 sickness absence for what principally manual staff. It is usual that manual staff groups have a higher rate of sickness absence, isn't it? So how does that compare? Have you done any comparisons with other local authorities or just the general public through the CIPD or something similar?
We don't have any specific benchmarking figures, and unfortunately the Hampshire councils, for example, don't produce those figures to that level of detail. But I most certainly agree that we would expect to see higher absence amongst that team because of the conditions that they're working in. They're often having to go out in nasty weather, etc. So they are more likely to suffer and have possibly more injuries as well as a result of the manual sort of work that they do, more musculoskeletal injuries, that sort of thing.
Finally, on the presentation, you talked about equalities and seeking to increase the diversity of the employment population to more accurately recognise and mirror the local population in the borough. What are you doing to make that happen?
Yeah, we've already had some discussions with the Basingstoke Multicultural Forum to get their views on how we could advertise our posts more widely to try and attract applications from those sections of the community. The discussions that we've had so far have focused around, they like the fact that all our jobs are advertised, for example, on the council's website, on the recruitment portal. We also advertise all our jobs at Job Centre Plus, so that is a good way of making sure that they are seen by all sections of the community. We've also been in discussions with them about possibly doing a presentation to some of their groups, and those talks are continuing.
Finally, on the presentation, Chair, again, back on the equalities issue, do you undertake equality impact assessments on everything?
Not everything. Where there has been a significant policy change or change in system, then we would undertake an equality impact assessment. And so an example of that would be the procedures that are in front of you today around discipline, capability and redundancy handling. Those have been subject to an equality impact assessment.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the paper, have you got any questions on that? Councillor Pearce? Yeah. Okay.
The first question, I think we know the answer from the presentation though, page 21, and I mentioned the equality impact assessment. So you don't include it in here, but we know it's available on the website. I think it's just worth reminding everybody that there are grade and gender comparisons as well as ethnic origin comparisons, which you haven't included in here. So that's just a matter of fact, I think. I think it ought to be. I know it's on the website, but I think it ought to be. My second question is page 31. It's in Appendix A. Is it okay to do that now, or is that... Sorry, it's the next item. Yes, okay, I'll shut up.
Okay, so we've got any other questions on this paper? Councillor Frankham?
Yeah, just wondering, I notice on page 8, on 3.3, it says one notable change is an increase in the number of younger employees. I'm just worried if that could give the impression that if you're a younger employee, you're more likely to be off sick, and whether it's sort of saying perhaps we should employ older employees or whatever. But just wonder if there's any comment on that, please.
It might help if I just give a bit of context around this. We were in previous years, we have been quite underrepresented in terms of that younger age group amongst the council's workforce. And so we have done a lot of work in the HR team to try and rectify that situation. So, for example, this year we've taken on 4 apprentices, all of whom are aged 18 or under. And we've also done a lot of work, which I've reported to the committee previously, about working with schools to improve employability skills for young people, but also with the aim of trying to put the council in their minds as an employer of choice for the future. So we would see that as we've done that work because we were coming from a position where previously younger workers were underrepresented at the council, and so we've done a big push to try and make ourselves more attractive to younger workers, and that's the reason that we focused in the reporting that has been successful.
So you're not saying that because you've got younger employees, the sickness rate has gone up? Because you could, if you read it, you could take it that way, and I'm sure that's not what we mean.
No, absolutely not. No, and apologies if that's come through here at all, but that's absolutely not the case. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so can I just confirm that we've noted the report, we've got Councillor Pearce's comments on there regarding gender. We all agreed? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, moving on to the next report on the pay policy statement. So this is the Council's pay policy statement for 2016 to 2017, and it's asking us to recommend it to full Council. So if I hand over to Sheila Smith to present.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Appendix A of the report includes a copy of the pay policy statement with track changes from last year's statement shown in colour, to hopefully make it a bit more obvious what the changes are. And then you've got a clean version, if you like, in Appendix B without those track changes on. The statement was last approved by the Council on the 22nd of October last year, and that was in response to changes in the pay structure that were approved by this committee on the 7th of September. Since then, no further changes have been made to the Council's pay policies, and so it's only minor updates that have been required this time round. One point to note is that the figures presented in the report assume a 1% pay award for all staff to apply from the 1st of April 2016. That has been offered, but is still going through the national negotiating machinery. So it's not confirmed at this time, but we've included those figures because it's possible that that will be agreed. So HR Committee is asked to recommend the pay policy statement in Appendix B to full Council. Thank you.
Okay, we got any questions on that paper? Councillor Pearce?
Well, it's apposite because that was the question. On page 31, these figures assume a 1% pay award. And I know there's been some discussions nationally about that, but that doesn't seem very much to me, considering how successful this council is. And I would have thought a possible 2% pay rise would have been much, much more appropriate, considering all the things that the staff have managed to do to put this authority in the place that it is.
Yeah, we do, currently, in terms of any pay awards that are offered to staff, those are negotiated through the national negotiating body, so we do follow that national pay award. To award more than that, we would need to have local pay negotiations, and we don't have the machinery for that at present time.
Okay. Councillor, have you got a supplementary?
Yeah. Okay, I mean, I don't want to end up having a massive debate about it, but the fact that there isn't the machinery doesn't seem to me to be a reason for not considering that in the light of everything that I've said and that you have said and that the council says about how it treats its staff.
Thank you. Councillor Boyer?
Thank you, Chairman. Can I assume that if there is an award granted, that it will be backdated to the 1st of April for all members of staff?
Yes, the offer that's on the table at the moment at national level is for 1% from the 1st of April 2016 and then a further 1% from the 1st of April 2017, and that would apply to all staff at the council. So if the negotiations are still going on past April, then any award will be backdated to the 1st of April 2016.
Councillor Tucker?
Thank you. I think we mustn't forget that we did actually give £100 non-consolidated payment to employees during the last year for their work, literally in recognition of the work that they have done.
Yeah, Councillor Sanders?
No, I just wanted to add that, of course, we do have a policy of trying to keep our remuneration packages within the upper quartile of what is normally on offer within the public sector anyway. So to a certain extent we are already trying to reflect an above average level of performance within the standard pay grades that are there.
Okay, so are we all okay to recommend it to full council as it is? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then the final paper is the revised disciplinary policy, capability.
Sorry, can
Sorry.
I just... I'm just a little concerned about how we integrate something which isn't yet agreed into this, whether or not we perhaps could find another means of expressing it with the current ones and then put in brackets or something after it what the new ones would be, just to be very, very clear, because if something didn't get agreed or a different figure got agreed, there's a danger that by having the actual figures in here they take on a life of their own. So maybe we could just look at that to see how we could express it in there. I know it's got a thing that these assume but you know what they say about assuming things. So I think I'll explain it to you later. Just for the real clarity, and so nobody can say that they were misled in any way by a quick reading of it. Perhaps we'd look at it.
Yes, certainly. I could most certainly include the current figures as they are, but in brackets next to them include the figures that assume the 1% pay award, and make a note to explain what that actually shows. And then also I have delegated authority to make changes to the pay policy statement as a result of any national pay awards that are agreed and will be implemented into this council's pay structure. So I could then subsequently amend it if and when the pay award is agreed. So yes, certainly.
Okay, so we'll note that and pop that in the recommendations for council. Okay. Okay, so the final paper now, sorry, says the revised disciplinary policy, capability, redundancy and handling. Sorry.
Sorry, I was looking at appendices. I need to go back to page 47, please. Appendix C, page 47.
So we're moving back to agenda item 6 now.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
I was thinking it was the next... Sorry. Oh, still on. I was thinking that the next agenda item was the next appendix. My head wasn't working properly. What I wanted to say there was that it seems to me that we should be reviewing the chief executive's salary level as well. Quite clearly, looking at the chief exec's remuneration for Basingstoke and Dean compared with all those others, I think we're well overdue reviewing that. I thought that at the time when we appointed him, but I certainly would reinforce that now.
Yeah, just to come back on that, just to confirm that we are going to be undertaking some pay benchmarking, which we are required to do under the pay policy statement on a periodic basis anyway, and that will be for all posts, including the chief executive's post.
Okay, any final questions or comments on this item? No? Okay. Okay, so item number 7, so the revised policies on disciplinaries, capability, redundancy and redundancy handling. So we've got 4 points to consider on this paper. So I think it'd be easy if we just went through each policy one by one. So if we start with the disciplinary policy in Appendix 2, have you got any questions on that? Comments? Councillor Boyer?
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to see that on 10.2 that the final written warning, which in the past was 24 months, has now been actually downgraded to 12, as in most other companies.
Councillor Pearce?
Page 61, I'm using the coloured one because it's easier. Section 6.4, witness evidence is given voluntarily. I can understand on the one hand why you would say that, but if the witness is a management witness, would you not expect them to give evidence rather than making it voluntary? Can I just say that I have already raised these in advance with Shella, so in case you were wondering. I'm not just throwing them out
No, that's fine.
in front of everybody without having full
Okay.
knowledge.
Just to confirm that there are situations where in going through a disciplinary process, it's often quite a scary event, I suppose, for witnesses and anyone actually involved in that process. And so initially, witnesses can be reluctant to give evidence. This has never actually been a problem in the council in reality, because we would take the time to explain to any witnesses exactly how their evidence would be used potentially at a disciplinary hearing if that was the outcome of any investigation, and through explaining to people what the disciplinary process actually involves and how their witness evidence will be used, we've always managed to get round any issues that people have, and we've never had an issue with people refusing to give witness evidence. So whilst we put that in the policy so that people understand that it is a voluntary process, through talking to people about the process and about their obligations as well to other people in their team, to tell the truth and help the council to establish the facts of a particular situation, which is what an investigation is really there to do, then we have actually been able to address any concerns, and we've never had a problem with people choosing not to give evidence.
In my experience, in those sort of difficulties are usually much more sensitive cases of sexual harassment particularly. May I go to my next question, Chair? Thank you. Page 63, 9.4. I've just added, we ought to say something about any language barrier for members of staff who may not, although they may be competent English speakers, nevertheless their first language may not be English, so I think we just need to make a small provision for that.
Certainly, and I think we could add something there. So in preparing for the hearing, provision must be made for any reasonable adjustments to accommodate the needs of a person with disabilities or for whom English is not their first language.
It's proved what I said earlier. 65, it's a small point, but we need to find another expression, particularly when we're talking about sex and sexual orientation, of a fellow worker. It needs to be just an employed, but not fellow, because they're not all men.
Councillor Sanders.
I'd just like to point out on behalf of the Use of English Society of Great Britain, or whatever it's called.
You're not a member of that.
I didn't say I was, I'm just saying on behalf of it, that actually fellow does not necessarily apply to a man. It can apply to people of either gender.
I don't wish to get into a debate with the leader about the machinations of the English language, but I think it's inappropriate to use the word fellow when we're talking specifically about sexual harassment and other issues. I don't think it should be a problem, in exactly the same way as we put he, stroke, she, or they.
Thank you. Just to come back, that phraseology, fellow worker, comes from the ACAS guide and the ACAS code. They do use the term fellow worker, but certainly we could say another worker, if that would help. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wasn't offended by it, so yeah, it's fine.
Have you been harassed?
No.
Those go hand in hand, right?
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that paper? No. Okay. So if incorporate.
Just a small part.
Okay.
I mean, this is. I don't think we resolved this one, Shella. 66. I'm slightly concerned about the phrase at the top there, sexual misconduct at work. I'm really not sure what that means, and I'm not really sure that that's the right expression. But it's just something that's sprung up at me.
So, obviously, as Councillor Pearce said, he had raised this with me previously, and having looked at the other list of possible reasons for which gross misconduct might be found, we've already got in there conviction of a criminal offence that is relevant to the employee's employment, and also discrimination or harassment of another worker on the grounds of sex, sexual orientation, race, disability, age or religion or belief. That would cover sexual harassment. So actually, I think if we were to remove that particular description, so the last bullet point, sexual misconduct at work, anything of that nature would be picked up under either one of those 2 bullet points, if members are happy with that.
It's just that if sexual misconduct at work is a cause for concern, and what circumstances would sexual conduct at work be acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, so if we can recommend Appendix 2, taking Councillor Pearce's points of the provision of hearing, of the hearing with the additional language, and changing 11.2 to another. So can we move on to Appendix 4 on the capability policy?
Just a mind, Shannon, can I just ask a point of clarification? Presumably when this goes to full council, or it doesn't do, okay, we'll just, but because we've got duplicate appendices, haven't we, here, they need to be, you know, taken out and shrunk back to just to the ones that we need. Okay.
We've got no questions? No? Brilliant, okay. So move on to the redundancy handling policy at Appendix 6. Okay. No questions? Oh.
I think I'd like to raise it. I mean, it's not a die-in-the-ditch issue, but I think it's a shame that the HR committee is only involved in appeals made by executive directors or chief executives. Sorry, you need a reference, page 110, because it's easier to look at in the colours. That's why I've stuck with those. As you see there, it says the appeal for heads of service, for example, used to be HR committee members' appeals panel. That's now been downgraded to the chief executive officer or section 151 officer. Just seems, you know, there are not going to be hundreds of them, or I hope they're not. Small point.
Respond on behalf of Shannon's behalf, because this was something which has been debated at some length at earlier committees in the past, and the decision to remove members from this process was to make it very clear that there is a complete separation of powers between the elected members and between the responsibilities of the managers of the council, in other words the officers, to run their own disciplinary and appeals procedure as part of a normal procedure. And it's only when it gets to the really top level of the part where there is nowhere else to go that you need then to find somebody else, which is in this case is the HR panel, and that was the reasoning behind it. I think it's a sound reasoning, and I wouldn't want to go back on that decision that was made.
Okay, Councillor Bowyer.
Thank you, Chairman. Sheila, can I just ask, in view of the way the grant system is going and we're having our money reduced year by year from government, have we any plans for any more redundancies coming up in the near future due to restructuring or anything like that?
There are a number of restructures ongoing at the moment as a result of the high-level restructure. That impacted on some of the teams below, and so those managers are now just carrying out reviews of their structure to make sure that they are properly aligned following the high-level restructure. to my knowledge at present, none of those have recommended redundancies as such. Some staff have been placed in an at-risk position, but in those particular teams there are enough posts for people, if that makes sense. There might just be a reshuffling of resources, unlikely to result in redundancies. So at the moment there is nothing ongoing at present that's likely to result in redundancies, but there are some restructures ongoing at the moment.
Councillor Frankham?
Yeah, it just brings me to something that I was looking at earlier, where you're saying about looking at restructuring and everything. When we do restructuring, does that cause where we've got stress levels have gone up there in the report? Sorry, I've forgotten what page it was, but the sickness for stress is exceedingly high.
So just to set that in context, absence for stress is the highest cause of absence in the UK. So we're not alone in that. Both private and public sector employers in most cases find that stress absence is the highest cause of absence amongst their staff. For our staff, we've done some analysis of the reasons why people have gone off sick with stress, and I don't know the paragraph within the Operational Management Issues report, but I think about 2/3 of the cases are related to personal circumstances. So, for example, someone might have suffered a bereavement, say. The other 2/3 are related to cases where management has initiated some kind of action against the employee for something like a disciplinary case, or they may have been involved in a grievance, for example. There aren't, to my knowledge, any that are related to somebody undergoing a restructure or review within their department.
Okay, any other questions? No. Okay, so if we move on to the final point, so that's us giving delegated authority to Shella to make any changes to the relevant policies as time goes on. Are we all happy to approve that? Agreed. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So that's all items done. Okay, and then just before I close the meeting, I'd just like to say thank you to Simon Christian. This is his last meeting as the chair of the staff forum. So in September now we'll be joined by Dan White and Mark Littlefield as the joint chair. Okay, thank you. Okay, and the meeting is now closed at 15:14.